Now, welcome back to The Line. Earlier this week, a story in the Albuquerque Journal caught the attention of many in the city. Two staff members allege that City Animal Welfare Director Barbara Bruin is allowing dangerous dogs that failed behavior tests to be released, back into the community. Now, I'll say this before we get into this discussion, guys. I'm involved with somebody who's in the animal welfare business, so I have a bit of an insight and a lean on this, but I'm interested in your discussion. And these things are very controversial. Stephen, let's start with some numbers here. We have over, or just under 12,000 intakes in this city of animals that come into the system every year. And it seems reasonable that even in Jim Ludwig's statement that he provided, that's a lot of animals. And is it a fact that in order to get around this problem, we have to start doing something on the front side of this problem with spay and neuter to drop the intake so we don't have as many potentially dangerous dogs being released on the back end? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think, but unfortunately, I think, Gene, you know probably a lot more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't.
It's a difficulty for everybody.
I thought we already had that program. I thought that program was already.
And we do. And in fact, the mayor actually ran on that. That was one of his things, and he's actually put some more money into it. The question is, should, with 12,000 animals, I mean,
Yeah, but it's a problem everywhere throughout the country. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how our program stacks up against other programs,
right.
but I do know that what we shouldn't be doing is releasing dangerous dogs back out into the community. Dogs that fail these tests. I mean, I personally, this is not a trivial matter. It's not a laughing matter. I think 18 people have already died this year from dog attacks.
That's right.
My stepson Lucian was attacked when he was 4 years old. And his entire head was inside a Great Dane, 100 stitches.
Wow.
And they worried about him dying.
Wow.
So this is a very, very serious problem. And in my view, okay, if you have somebody that's altering records, who's trying to prevent people from going public, who's trying to stop dangerous dogs from being released, that director who's doing that, that director should not have the mayor's support, which apparently she does at this point.
Let me talk about that. We'll circle back on a couple of things. Tom, the mayor came out quickly and did support Ms. Bruin after a day. And the question I have in my mind is, here you have a situation we can only assume has been going on since Ms. Bruin has been in charge of this situation. We have numbers from this report from the last year. Let's assume that's an average for the past, a bit of time. That's a lot of dogs suddenly. And does it feel like in your gut that the mayor gave this enough consideration that the person who was on top of the situation is now the person to fix the situation? If she couldn't get it done and follow the letter of the law previously, what gives him confidence that she could do so now?
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is the first time that any of us have heard anything about this. And aside from this incident or the claims, which are at this point just claims, the animal welfare in the city of Albuquerque has actually done a very good job of setting up adoption clinics and really, making it very friendly and accessible to adopt a dog. Now, with that said, seeing that the whole focus has been on adoption, now to have that focus be on the adoptions might be in question.
Right.
That's the big problem, and that I think the mayor should be able to address in greater detail. Barbara Bruin was a very controversial pick.
That's right.
As an animal welfare, to head up that particular program. So the mayor obviously believes in her, and I respect that he's standing by her, but I think we need a little bit more transparency with regards to this so we can really see what is taking place.
Right.
And it's not up to the media to provide that transparency. I think it's up to the government entity to say, here's everything we have, and just say, help us, to fix this issue, or at least come out with a plan and saying, here is how we are going to fix it.
Absolutely. Antoinette, it's interesting when I think about, it gives me a cold chill when I think about the potential lawsuits here that could be happening for our city and that we all end up paying for, except Julianne, but that's okay. But what I'm meaning is, when I got to the part of the story where they mentioned Lucky Paws, one of the great success stories for our city when it comes to animal control, and the fact that these folks were unknowingly passing through dangerous dogs that they had not been told were dangerous to somebody else. I can't imagine a situation where the suits start going up the line. Lucky Paws gets touched, then the city gets touched, and suddenly you had a big fat mess.
I think we're going to see a lot of litigation. And what surprised me is that there wouldn't be disclosure. And as you talked about transparency, I think the easiest solution, if this person was against, if Barbara Bruin was against euthanizing the dogs, which you can understand because these dogs learned this behavior and can unlearn it, it would have been very easy to simply disclose the history of the dog, the complete history of the dog, to whoever adopted. And they could make a choice. And that would have resolved a lot.
In Jim Ludwig's piece, though, Julianne Graham, or his piece, he's an old reporter, it's not a piece, it's a, he's not doing it for the newspaper. The violations were pretty staggering about what didn't happen, and the record keeping Antoinette is mentioning did not happen. We just don't know who these dogs are. We don't know where they've gone.
Frightening.
We don't know who owns them now. It just seems to me that, you know, if the record keeping is part of the problem, how do we get after this? Is it a financial situation or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the administration of these animal welfare programs it's very expensive. You know, we have the shelter that's operated jointly with the Humane Society in Santa Fe.
Right.
It's just they struggle with having enough money to keep all the animals that are coming in, to provide health care for them, to, as you know, we talked about spay and neutering. There are a number of rules in Santa Fe. If your dog gets arrested, you know, to use that parlance, and your dog is unaltered, you have to pay more money to get that dog out. There are some circumstances where, you know, you're almost forced to have that surgery done.
That's right.
I think those kind of things could go a long way.
Sure.
What appears interesting in this situation is that you have an expert who's trained and educated in dog behavior making recommendations. You know, you assume that person also loves dogs.
That's right.
Just as much as the person who's making the opposite decision. And
Sure.
so really it's a matter of when you come up with these policies, you say that these behavioral tests work and they are an effective indicator of how an animal might behave. You have to trust that. You have to take that all the way through your process. You can't at some point say, oh, never mind, we really want to give these dogs happy homes.
Sure. We've got about a minute and a half left here, Stephen. The big issue, it seems to be, there's a big gulf between folks who are no-kill advocates, who don't want to euthanize any dogs for any reason, and those who say that's part of the management process of being animal control versus animal humane. What's your sense of that? Is that part of the foundational problem here, the no-kill thing?
Yeah, but I do think there are some dogs that can be retrained. There are some dogs that can be sent to ranches where they can roam. There are alternatives. All right, to just euthanizing all these dogs.
That's right.
But some dogs are dangerous and can't be retrained, and they fail this test that Julianne's talking about. You know, one really fascinating thing to me is the mayor's reaction. You know, what did he learn from the APD crisis? I think he's learned something. He came out right away. But I think supporting this director, this is just like he did with Chief Schultz. Right? This sends a bad signal to the animal shelter, to other departments. You have to go to the IG to get this stuff out. You can't go to your boss.
That's right.
Not good.
That's a good point right there. Exactly right. Interesting. Now, up next, we put the line panelists here on the clock and ask them to react to other news stories from this past week.